All right, guys, welcome to a new episode of Submission Radio Live. Just want to remind everybody out there, before we get started, you can join up. You can be a Submission Radio member right now. Hit the join button. You guys get priority access to shout-outs, questions being asked, exclusive emojis, helps the show going. This is a completely independent program. But what about this episode of Submission Radio Live? What about this? UFC 318 Fight Week right around the corner. The farewell of one all-time fan favorite, and Dustin Poirier, and I have a combo, two fan favorites joining me here today to help get us sorted. The first man is making his Submission Radio Live debut, former Strikeforce lightweight champion with classic battles with Gilbert Melendez, a win over Nate Diaz, fights with legends like Dwayne Ludwig and more. Now co-host one of the hottest podcasts out there, weighing in with Big John McCarthy, Josh Thomson. Welcome to the program, my friend.
What's up, guys? Crowd goes wild. What's up, man? How's everything going, guys?
Great to have you on the program. And my other guest, of course, you can describe him in a number of ways. The Iceman, the myth, the man in the hat. The one thing you can be sure is he is one of the baddest riders in the game, one of the legends in the MMA media space and more. Chuck Mindenhall. You're back, bro.
Jesus, fellas. Come on. Whoa.
No cameras.
The heel is here. How you doing, Chucky?
I'm well, man. You know what? This is an honor to be on Josh's. I just assumed you're a regular on the show, Josh. So this is this is great. You're making your debut.
My cherry, man. Popping my cherry.
Very cool.
I'm so excited to have you guys on. And Josh, thanks again for jumping on, and Chuck as well. I know how busy you guys are. We're going to be breaking down UFC 318 in just a sec, talking through a couple of key fights, what they mean, what the future might look like. But before I do, what have you guys made of the fact that it looks like this whole Conor McGregor thing keeps evolving more and more and more and more? We saw there was some leaks. There were things being sent last week. Then there were some photos, right, Josh, of Conor on the beach, and you even tweeted to it as well.
Yeah.
What are you doing cheating a girl with 3s and 4s? Yeah. That's the question of the day.
I don't get it. Like, listen, and I talked about this on my podcast. I said basically, like, I've never met D in person. They're not married, but his girlfriend, fiance, whatever she is. I've never met her in person. But if I was going to compare the ones that he's been with, or he's been caught with, or messing around with, they're equivalent to like a 3 or a 4 in comparison to her. So I don't understand what the problem is, not to mention that she is the father of, I think, 3 or 4 kids. So something around there. She looks fantastic. So I don't know what your issue is. I don't know what your problem is, but man, I mean, I feel bad for her. I feel bad for the kids. But I said this the other day, and I said, there's two things that are going to come of this, right? Your kids are either going to hate you, okay, or they're going to be menaces just like you. They're going to believe that all the money that they have can go ahead and carry them through doing what you're doing. And so there's no other way around it. It sucks that it's got to this point, but it is what it is right now. That's kind of my take on that whole situation. But he's messing around with 3s and 4s. Even Uncle Chael said,
I like that. That's your major issue with
yeah. I mean, Uncle Chael said,
going to do it.
I think there's been like 4 or 5 other fighters goes, what is with him and the 3s and the 4s? Like, if you're worth $400-500 million, whatever, even if you're worth $100 million, I'm not messing around with 3s and 4s.
There must be an arrangement in place, right? I mean, there's got to be some kind of arrangement. I can't imagine being busted this many times.
Anything higher than a 5? What is the arrangement?
Wow. Well, no, I mean with his girl that he's with, the mother of his children. But you know what's crazy, man? You keep saying leaks, and then I know what you're talking about, and then I think I put those two things together. And you don't want to be leaking, from the exposed whatever we're talking about here. You know what I'm saying? Like, so this is. I feel like every time, and it's always a different cast, but when we're talking about Conor McGregor, it's something more and more audacious, isn't it? So I'm with you, Josh. I think that it's one of those things that, I mean, you really hope it just doesn't come to a tragic end at some point for the types of things he gets in trouble with, and just the unhinged nature of some of the things that he's doing without fear of consequence. At some point that does catch up to you. I know that he's been kind of vilified within the MMA media and sometimes within the larger media, but honestly, man, he pretty much gets by with it. Like, he'll show up at the next event, be at the BKFC, whatever it is, he'll still be there. He'll still be an ambassador for something, and he'll show up and people will forgive him. But I do worry about him, man, in the long run, because it just seems crazy. Like the fact that we're sort of immune to it. You wake up and you see these pictures or you hear people talking about it and you're just sort of immune to it. Like, oh, what do you do now? Ah, all right. Well, that's mild by comparison. That's troubling.
He literally woke up the next day and said, "Happy birthday to me." I mean, like, I was baffled. Like, wait, no, like, hey, like, I should probably stay off social media today. And then all day today, since this morning, I mean, people were sending me like he's just talking about being the president.
Yeah.
I mean, ignorant
to be on the White House card.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, he's selling it. You know, I saw you saying on the other one, like, you know, he's flexing what he's got. You know, and I guess in his mind, that's kind of what's going on here.
Well, it's interesting, right? You mentioned the White House, Chuck. We saw Dana White was on the Pat McAfee show and brought up that it's got to be the Sphere on steroids, fellas. The Sphere on steroids. Josh, what does the Sphere on steroids even look like at the White House? Give me your main and co-main event.
It looks like Connor's dick. I mean,
he did enter the testing pool, though. He even mentioned the word steroids. I'm like, wait a second here.
Yeah. I mean, like, the question is, I mean, obviously, I mean, are you going to have now Connor on that card? You guys are giving me crickets. What's the answer? Like, you having him on the
What's
card?
the deal with the White House over there for you fellas? I don't know, because I'm here in Australia. Like, is it good to have Conor McGregor at the White House? Bad? Like, what does that mean? For
I mean, it really depends on how this all shakes out. I don't know how you can shake it out any more than what you've already done. I mean, you're lifting weights with it right now, you know, and sending unsolicited pics to females. And I said this on the Weighing In podcast. Like you've got to kind of know your room. The person he sent it to she's not interested into a potato Irish dick. Like she's not. That's not her thing. And so, I mean, and it's I think it was Uncle Chael said, well, at least we know he's not racist. You know, it's like that's one way of looking at it. I mean, he's out there trying to share it all to everybody. But I think going to the White House situation, I think it'd be fantastic. I think it would be absolutely fantastic to have it on the White House lawn. It's just sad that it won't be open to the public, and we understand why. I mean, it's going to be very difficult to get a lot of the public in there, going through security, the background checks, all of those things. But yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a historic moment, and everyone knows. I think it's going to probably from the top. It would have to be, and I'm not a John Jones fan, but I'm also not a John Jones hater. I just don't like. I think you have the last American real champ that was the champ at the time, forfeited the title. Now he's got some interest. And if Tom Aspinall can keep that title all the way up until the time they fight, you have someone from the UK. It just makes sense. You have the UK versus America in the White House, you know, on the 250th anniversary of 4th of July, I believe. So yeah, it makes sense.
On the one hand, it's like you think about like McGregor and you think about John Jones. Well, these are the two biggest tickets, right? They're right up there with the biggest tickets. I mean, Conor McGregor is still going to be the biggest ticket when he comes back just because of his broader appeal beyond our sphere. Like, just people know who he is. And in a traditional sense, you'd be like, well, they can't waste both those guys, their comebacks on one show. They just can't do that. But when you look at the White House and what that represents, and like both guys kind of sending out their tweets like, hey, that's motivation enough for me. I mean, it was 2 weeks after John retired that he's like, all right, hey, now we're talking. I could see him doing it, man. I just think I could see them doing that.
It's not wasting their comebacks. There would be no comeback if it wasn't at the White House. That's right. That's another way of looking at it. They only want to fight there, and they're willing to waste their comeback, and the UFC is willing to just snatch it up. There's no other way. Plus, you're not going to sell tickets, so you got to make your money somehow. And if you're going to end up having it, and I think this was also a good ploy by, and who knows if this will really happen. Let's just be honest. This might have just been a Donald Trump, Dana White conversation. If you say this, I may be able to get a bigger deal with Netflix. I may be able to get a bigger deal with YouTube, whatever it is. Like, if you say that we're going to have a fight on the White House lawn, I mean,
it certainly doesn't hurt, man. Netflix, especially, like, you know, Netflix, like just watching. I don't know if you guys paid any attention to the boxing event that just happened. I mean, the platform itself,
great production.
Yeah. So I mean, you see what they can do and kind of like the reach and all that stuff. I mean, come on, that's got to speak to them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we can get rid of the pay-per-view model, which I think everybody wants to, and the UFC is obviously have been not hemorrhaging money, but people have been stealing it and streaming it for years now, and it's just gotten worse. I mean, now you got 4-year-olds that know how to stream. I still don't know how to stream because I'm freaking.
They all know how to do it. I don't know how they do it.
Us of a certain age don't know how to do that. I mean,
like, I'm not gonna lie. I've tried to stream a couple times, not UFC, but some other events, and I gotta be honest. They're like, yeah, don't open that package. Don't open that. And I'm like, okay, look, this is way too complicated. I know. You open the wrong thing, you got a virus. They've stole your bank account. I'm like, I'm good, man. I'll just pay the $50-$60.
I know exactly.
$80, whatever.
There's also just like, you know, the times I've poked around, you know, I've tried to look at like what that looks like, but it kind of interrupts a lot and you kind of get off the rhythm of live. And then at some point you're like, hey, if this just goes out and I'm talking about the fights afterward, I'm like, you know, it just kind of throws it off. So at this point, man, I don't even look at the streams. Just buy it.
The best thing
ESPN was struggling for a second there too, though, for a while.
Still struggling now, Josh.
Oh my God, you're right. Yes,
still struggling now. And by the way, best thing here in Australia is the pay-per-views are on a Sunday, so you go to the pub in the afternoon and just grab a beer and watch it for free, right? But you guys couldn't do that because too many people would be coming up to you for autographs and stuff. But I'm incognito, so although I did.
Although when the UFC goes there, don't you guys have to go to the fights at like 5 a.m. or something like that?
Yeah, they start at 5 a.m. sometimes in Perth. Hey, I've got to quickly, just while we're on this, Josh, who do you want to see Conor? If Conor McGregor was to fight at the White House, who would you want to see him fight? Obviously, there's like the Michael Chandlers of the world. He's like the American, so it kind of makes sense. But I also bring this up because I know you were talking about, I saw in a recent show, boxing Nate Diaz. And Nate Diaz, this is a Mac Live graphic. He really wants to fight Conor McGregor for a third time as well. Who would you want to see Conor McGregor fight at the White House?
I mean, honestly, it would probably be Nate. You know, I would say it would probably be Nate. I mean, like, let's not have any grandeur illusions that like Conor's going to be fantastic and he's going to be able to fight like a world-class guy. It's not going to happen. You know, so I would rather have him against somebody that I know. I think the Michael Chandler thing is just ran its course. I mean, I'm sick of hearing about it. I don't even want to go through another promotion of it. But if you throw Nate in there, I would love to see that fight. The trash talk, the media up to it would be absolutely fantastic. I'm down for that fight. That's a fight to definitely have. And I know I just said what I said, but this guy does not shoot takedowns. And this guy will just stand in front of you. You have either Justin Gaethje or Max Holloway. Those are the two guys. You know, those are two guys that will stand and they will trade. There's a little bit of history with Max and with Conor, you know, and then Gaethje and him would be, and Gaethje's getting older. You know, Conor's coming off the Conor binge. So whatever it is, I mean, those are guys that I know that they're at the top still, but you know, within a year's time, I mean, it could be a different story. You know, those are my three, but I would lean more towards Nate. Just to be honest.
You didn't do Nate now, you're never getting it right. It almost makes complete sense, except for the kind of irony, I guess, of Nate being, you know, anti-establishment and just kind of never been part of, which is actually adds a dimension of fun for me. I think that would be like just a terrific backdrop for something like that. But you're talking about Michael Chandler. I'm like, Michael Chandler, same thing, man. I'm just kind of to the point where I'm like, well, does anybody want to see it? And you mentioned some of the other names, and I'm like, is that too big of a, you know, of a piece to like tear off for Conor at this point, who hasn't fought in 5 years by that point? I just feel like if you're trying to make it a little even, Nate Diaz would probably be the guy, right?
Absolutely. That's the guy to make. And then plus you have like the Irish guy versus the American, if that's kind of the where you're trying to go with it. You know, I think that's the way to go. And plus it's the trilogy fight. And there's no, like I said, fans will be like, hey, I'm down to watch that fight. That's the fight. You know, Nate's going to help sell it. Nate never sells it until like the last week and a half. He starts throwing water bottles at people. And then all of a sudden people are tuned in, right? They're ready to watch the fight. And that's how it works. Chandler, he's going to try to just, you know, give you sound bites. He's going to try to, you know, cut a promo at every press conference. It's going to get a little cheesy throughout the rest of the lead up to it. And we've already heard it. We've already seen it. We've already heard it. It's time to move on from that. If you got into anybody else, like with the Max, you know, and the Justin Gaethje, that they might be too much for him right now. I worry about. You know, I do worry about that, and we put a nail in the Conor coffin. But I'm okay with that as well. I think it's time. I think what's holding our sport back right now is we're holding on to the old timers. You know, I think that's why what Dustin Poirier is doing right now is amazing. He understands where he's at in his career. He understands I could soak out the next $3 or $4 million out of the UFC and not perform the levels that I could normally perform at. He's doing it right, man. He announced it. He's got it all. He got the fight that he wanted in the city that he wants, in the state that he wants. He's doing it right. I got nothing but love and respect for Dustin Poirier. He's one of the greatest fighters to ever step inside the cage, and he's just also one of the greatest people I've ever met, trained with, and been around. And you know, he's a fantastic person. To him, his family, everything about him, I don't know how people could not like him. He's a fucking animal inside the cage. And
you know, the greatest thing about him is, don't you get the sense? I mean, Josh, you've probably been around him more than me. I've definitely been around him a little bit, but you get the sense that he's the exact same dude, whether he's hanging out at his house. If you're sitting with his mom, like with his mom, he'd probably be the exact same guy. If he's in an interview, he's going to be the same guy. He steps in the cage, he's the exact same guy. Like, it doesn't seem like he puts on any airs whatsoever.
No, when I met him back when Frankie Edgar was training for Benson Henderson 2, him and I went out there and we're training with Frankie in Jersey. And that's when I met him. And I was like, there's no way you're 182 pounds. There's no way you make 145. I was just baffled. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is insane. Like, and you see Frankie's smaller than both of us, and he's the champ at 155, or was the champ at 155. I'm like, man, we're not doing something right. What's going on? Anyways, but he has been the same since then, outside of a haircut. And the moment that I've seen him recently, you know, whether it was at Bellator events or whether it was in LA, like hotels, whenever I had crossed paths with him, he's been the same person.
Yeah. You know, and they talk about keeping it real, you know, and I'm like, that guy doesn't know another way. Like, every interview he has, I'm like, man, has anybody spoke so genuinely from the heart and like their brain and just told you exactly what's going on like he does? I mean, you really feel like you understand, for a guy like me who hasn't fought, vicariously certain things within the fight game when he talks, because he gives you such a genuine response to what he's talking about, you know?
Well, that's why it's best he leaves now, because he still has brain cells.
Oh, yeah.
Conversation.
And he's so even keel, he understands that, I feel like. So it's just a great thing too. I agree with you 100% on that, man.
I guess you get to this point though too, is when is too much money too much money? And like he seems like he's financially okay. He's made some good decisions, you know, in some business areas. You know, I think with every fighter, because I went through this experience and I'm still kind of going through it a little bit. Here I am 5 years, 6 years removed, you know, is you really don't know what to do with yourself. That's the hardest part. I'm still trying to figure out, like, I own gyms, sure, but they kind of run themselves, you know, like I have my real estate license. It kind of runs itself. It's so easy. Like, I have so much free time. I do podcasts. It's like, but I need more. Like, when you were a fighter, right? You knew
that's how you ended up here, Josh, right?
Yeah.
Submission Radio Live.
I need more. I need more. So like, it just comes down to you have so much more time. You realize all your days were spent. You run in the morning early. I mean, I'm not sure if that's the schedule, but I'm saying you run in the morning early, train in the early morning or afternoon, and then you train again in the evening, and then you go home and eat, shower, sleep, and do it all over again. Rinse, wash, repeat. And so you do that 5-6 days a week. And as you get older, you maybe dial one day back into active recovery. But you know what your days are. Like, okay, Monday's sparring, Tuesday's wrestling, Wednesday's sparring, Thursday's jiu-jitsu. Like, you have it planned out for the next 20 years, 15, 18 years is what he's been doing it for. He knows his schedule. He probably doesn't know what the date is, but he knows tomorrow is Tuesday, and that's the day we grapple. He knows Wednesday is, you know, tomorrow is Wednesday. That's the day we spar. That's all he cares about. You know, I mean, like, obviously, I know he cares about a lot more, but I'm saying, like, in the scheme of a fighter's world, that's all we think about is today's Wednesday. Okay, today's grappling day, or, you know, sparring day. I grab my stuff, throw it in the bag, and okay, tonight I do a long run, or I do sprints tonight, you know, at the hill, whatever it is. We have a schedule, and it's been the same schedule that amount of time. So for him, good for him. This is a great fight for him too. You know, a very tough fight. Someone who you know is not gonna try to take him down. This, to me, it's a historic fight, not only because he's leaving, but he's fighting somebody who I feel like now is a better fighter at 155 than he is at 145, and that makes it a dangerous fight. They're like, oh, we already beat him at 55. Yeah, sure, you already beat him at 55. He came up from 45 on a not short notice, but he didn't have enough time to put the weight on. We have seen now when he puts the weight on properly, right? When he performs at a high level and he puts the weight on properly, look at the Justin Gaethje situation. I mean, and styles make matchups, and this is a stylistic, just not a nightmare, but a stylistic it's a fight that fans are going to be just out of their seat, I think, the whole time.
Yeah.
It's going to be a crazy evening. And before we break it down, just quickly, I know I mentioned Nate Diaz before. A bit of buzz going around, Josh, as well, about you potentially boxing Nate Diaz. I know you spoke about it briefly. What do you think, man? Is there a chance before this whole White House thing happens? You guys mix it up this year, maybe? Get back in there? What do you reckon? I know you beat him already.
Yeah. I mean, like I told him, I said, I'll make it even for you. No kicks this time, okay? And we'll just make sure it's healthy, Look, I think for both of us, we're at an age now where neither one of us wants to wrestle or grapple. I think that's kind of it. Like jiu-jitsu's, I know I've done a grappling match against him. He beat me by a ref's decision, and then I fought him in MMA. I was able to finish him. The only guy to ever finish him in terms of TKO and strikes. I know there was a doctor stoppage by Masvidal, and then he's coming off of his win over Masvidal in boxing. And I said, hey man, like let's go ahead and do it. It sounds like there is some interest. He's like, oh, but you get the whole conversation of like you need to beat somebody. Yeah, just won your last one, but you barely won. So like, okay, but he's got some friends that he would like me to beat. So I'm kind of entertaining the issues. We'll see what happens. But look, I think ultimately it's going to come down to me, boxing him, and it's really going to come down to which promoter we choose. I think to do it in San Jose, I mean, there's two obvious promoters in the Bay Area or in California to use, one of them being Scott Coker. And I know that in San Jose at the SAP Arena, the two of us could definitely sell that out.
Wow.
That's
where the scene, where you first fought him, right? Like in San Jose?
I first fought him, and he's down the road in Stockton. And I was born and raised in San Jose, and I've got tons of family there. Just on my mom's side, I got 54 cousins. Just on my mom's side.
Well, you don't want to fight there. Then you're going to be giving up a bunch of free tickets, man.
No. Maybe man. I'm half Mexican, bro. We make them all pay. So no, but I think it's there, man. I think the option is there for us to cash out on a big deal and to sell out an arena in San Jose, a huge arena. I've got a big name there. He's got a big name in the Bay Area, of course, being from Stockton, and it's there. I mean, look, he talks about being a gangster, man. I'm telling you, let's go ahead and fight. I'll fight you anytime, anywhere. If you want 2 weeks from now, I'll do it. If you want it in 10 weeks, let's do it. Let's not talk about it, man. Let's go ahead and talk. Let's go ahead and just be about it. Let's do it. So if you want 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is, you're like, oh, I want you to fight somebody. Yeah. I've already given you a couple names. I said, I'll take this guy, that guy. I mean, Anthony Pettis is on that list. I'll fight Anthony. I love Anthony, man. Anthony's a great dude, great father, great fighter, all those things. We were supposed to fight for the UFC title. I'll fight Anthony. I already brought up, Chris Avila, which is like his training partner.
Oh, yeah.
Someone who fights very stylistically like him and coming off a win over Anthony Pettis. And so I said, I'll fight you. I mean, that's the reason why I said Chris is because he beat Pettis. I respect Pettis. I'll fight either one of those guys. So we just got to find a promoter to put it together. And then, maybe we'll have, Nate there front row so I
love it.
Jump over the ropes after I beat them and beat you right there in front of everyone.
Dennis, what's going to happen is we're talking about Diaz McGregor 3. Josh comes in, beats Diaz. All of a sudden, Thomson, McGregor, the White House.
What the White House?
What is going on here, man?
What? We heard it here first.
You guys are mistaken, man. I'm not trying to wrestle, grapple, clinch. I'm not trying to do any of that. No,
neither is Connor, though.
54 cousins trying to get into the White House to watch Josh do his thing. Hey, guys, before we break down the UFC 318 card, just a quick shout out to Old Man Dave, who just gifted 5 memberships. Lazy Bed giving a shout out to Josh. Tell him Chris Avila can get it too. We'll see what happens with that as well. It's all happening. And I want to bring up this UFC 318 card for you fellas. And first of all, get your thoughts, right? Because Dana White put out a graphic. This is through Mac Live, Oscar Willis shout out, where he said, this card is so badass. The BMF card is officially finalized. It's going to be fun in New Orleans. Of course, a lot of people sort of criticizing this as a little bit of a fight night on steroids. I mean, speaking of the Sphere on steroids, people are saying this is a fight night card on steroids. Feels like a boxing card, very about the main event, but I guess it's a big moment, like you said, Josh, with Dustin Poirier. Chuck, I want to go to you first, man. What would you grade this card out of 10? Are people being fair when they say that it's not really sort of worth the whatever 80-something bucks that it's going to people?
So I guess that's the gauge, right? If you're looking at it from I'm going to shell out money. Is this have the quality of and you compare it to other pay-per-views? I hate when Dana does as well. You got to stick around. You got to see these fights because that's how you know if you got the bang for your buck. But there's a weird one about this one that I'm like, I feel like they're going to get the bang for their buck, man, because this is just, it's got a lot of these matchups. Some of them are a little lopsided in terms of odds, the Vegas odds, but I bet you they're going to produce action. You can look down that line and there's probably 7 or 8 fights that are, going to the prelims, and there's probably 7 or 8 fights that I think will deliver. So if you look at it from a strict standpoint of will it deliver and is it worth that gamble? I say yes. So I know some people are way down on the card. I'm not that down on this card. I'd probably give it, something like a B, but I know if you're looking for, a BMF belt is sort of a figment of the imagination in a weird way. But, you know, if you get past that, I mean, the fights themselves are very good.
What do you think, Josh? How you feel about this card?
Oh,
Like, would you give it a high one?
Yeah, I'm giving this card a 9 right now, just from what I've seen. And you know, you're saying a B. I put that right there around an 8.5, 9, somewhere like that. I mean, the reason being is like I think what people are complaining about is there's not a lot of highly ranked fighters on this card. Just because they're not highly ranked doesn't mean you're going to get the best fights. You're going to get some damn good fights in this card. I'm going to be honest right now. Kevin Holland and D-Rod, it might end up being a little lopsided. But in that first probably 30 minutes, 3 minutes to 4 minutes could be a great fight. And you may get a finish, you may not, it may get in the second round, but you're going to see D-Rod's a guy that's going to stand in front of you, chase after you, do whatever he can. He tends to fade as the fight goes on because he is getting a little bit older, but man, the guy can fight. The guy can scrap. His last fight was a great fight with Ponzinibbio. So, I mean, like a good fight back and forth. Costa, I think there's a lot going on with Costa right now. Mentally, he realizes that Chimaev gets that title. There's all this drama with him and Chimaev. There's a lot to shape. If you're the UFC, you need Costa to win this fight. And I think he's very stylistically, he's a lot more explosive than Kopylov. And I think he is just someone that has a big power. If we see a little bit of what we saw in his fight with Romero, I think you're going to end up seeing him walk away with a big win. But obviously, look, the Dan Ige and Patricio Pitbull fight, I think that fight's going to do a lot better than people think. I think what they're doing is they're taking away from Dan not being ranked super high, but Dan's always exciting. It comes in as a savior. Patricio not having a great performance against Yair, but let's be honest. Yair is like a Machida or an MVP. He's somebody that just moves so well. He's so fluid. And so having to deal with somebody like that was very difficult for someone who's 37, 38 years old, Patricio. So, and also shorter in stature and doesn't have the reach and all those things that you have coming in to fight someone like a Yair Rodriguez. Very tough fight for your first fight in the UFC. And they knew that. They knew, you know how they do it.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, come on. Let's not. This fight right here This should have been Patricio's first fight in the UFC was Dan Ige. Dan Ige called for it. I talked to Dan Ige at Barroca 2 and Barroca 3 and in Vegas, and he was like, that's the fight that I wanted. I wanted to welcome him because I know he's going to stand and trade. I know he's a banger, and I think this is going to end up being probably potentially fight of the night. And there's also Zellhuber and Johnson and everything else. So, but I rate this card a 9.
Also, Brandon Allen and Vittoria are on the prelims.
That's an unofficial rematch, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah, exactly. That's part 2 right there. That's part 2 right there.
I was front row watching the whole thing happen at the Hollywood Casino.
I wonder why the UFC don't play into that a little more as well, right? Like this history, there must be something going on in the back end where they're like, we don't want to push this too hard. But usually they like to push it, like bad blood, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's not even the prelims, I don't think, main event. So it's an interesting one. Just quickly, Chuck, on Kevin Holland, interesting situation here. This guy basically fights all the time for the UFC. Have a look at his schedule so far for the year. January 18th, fought on my birthday. RDR, if you don't mind, at middleweight. Not the easiest matchup in the world. Then we got the Gunnar Nelson win, the Vicente Luque win. Now if he goes out there and beats D-Rod, right? What does this mean for Kevin Holland? Like, sneakily, this guy has now picked up 3 wins back-to-back in a year. Like, not long ago, we were like, yeah, this guy's just all about the money. We don't really know where this is going to shake out. Now he's got a bit of a run going with a win this week.
But he's still rolling the dice the same, isn't he? Like, he's just kind of taking fight. Didn't he just fight in June? Like,
yeah, June 7th, bro.
Yeah, 4 weeks ago, something like that. So,
I mean, he's still kind of so I would say that the kind of cult of Holland that was existing, before the guys that were the wrestlers kind of took the air out of the tires, it's back. It's kind of back into its real sense. And I think that the UFC loves having a guy like that now because I think he's probably answered the call for them when nobody else is. You know what I mean? He's kind of stepped into these situations and he shines more often than he doesn't. And especially if you give him like an accommodating dance partner, which I think he has this time. So I don't know where it's up, but a guy who does that many favors for the UFC, you almost think like, well, if they can expedite him into a situation where he could be near a title, or in that talk, they might, just because he's been there for them so many times.
I look at him like a Cowboy Cerrone. He's somebody that can stay active and he comes out and he performs almost every single time. He went through this stint though, where he was trying to be too much of a crowd pleaser by talking to the crowd, talking to Dana instead of fighting. And I think honestly, after the Dolidze fight or whatever it was, like he just kind of was in that position of the UFC said, okay, look, we paid you over $1 million to fight Chimaev. You made the money. Okay. You're doing fine. So let's not go goofing around. Okay. You've lost a couple in a row. Let's get you back on track. We can still use you. We want to use you. You got to win fights, though. I can't keep giving you fights and you lose and you go out there having fun. Show me the seriousness that brought you into the level that we wanted to pay you that amount of money. Remember, he knocked out Jacare from the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, let's
Still
not forget.
I think that's still his best performance. That was such a great one, man.
And lost the split decision to the champion.
I mean, like
JDM.
Yeah, like you know what I mean. So you have these fights where he's right there. Like he just needs to clean up some of the the past. But I think because he had made so much money, he was sitting comfortably, going like, I'm good. I can train. I can do what I want. Look, money does that sometimes too. It makes you feel like you can get away with a lot. Ask Connor. And in this situation, I think he felt like, oh man, that's the most money I've ever had. I'm sitting fine. Now I can go out there and just have fun. No, you still have to win because winning solves everything. And that's my old time saying. I've told myself that 1,000 times. If you win, it doesn't matter at all. Play out well. You've got to win these fights. And I think the UFC had told him and talked to him about it. And you're seeing a change in the last 2 fights. Yeah. We've seen a change in his personality, his lead up to the fights, his ability inside the cage. He has been really trying to take it to his opponent and not just talking and laughing and joking. And sure, there's some smiles in there and stuff, but he is out there to win. And I like that. That's the Kevin Holland that we all fell in love with when he came in during COVID.
I mean, you like to see sometimes these proverbs that you heard kick around for so long, win or learn. And like you see a guy like him who was taking these losses. And I agree with you, man. It felt like, I guess, that there was almost a facetious idea that maybe he just, he goes against certain, in these certain situations, he doesn't care that much. He's just going to get his paycheck. I think that has changed. So if that's the case, and if he made a run, it would be that much more remarkable because he would live by that proverb that he learned from his mistakes and earlier in life, and he was able to do something like that. Fascinating guy, though, man, because I feel like people sort of put him in the back of their minds for a minute, but as soon as he comes back in, it's always like he becomes a big talk of the fight world. And I think he's kind of on that cusp again, man. I think people, they root for him.
Absolutely. I mean, what's not to like about him? He's active. Look, in this day and age, when we have fights every weekend, if you are not fighting once every 6 weeks, people forget about you. They're like, oh, what's that guy doing? Is he even in the rankings anymore? Like, we just forget. I've done that a couple times. I've done that with Peter Yan. Like, when was the last time that guy fought? He fought like 10 weeks before that. And I was like, people are like, you idiot, he fought 10 weeks ago. I'm like, yeah, we've had 10 fights since then. That's how it happens every weekend.
It's true.
And so if you're not fighting every 6 to 10 weeks, somewhere 6 to 9 weeks, people forget. And he's that guy that's always fresh in our mind. What, 5 weeks ago he fought. He's back. And now he's, and if he gets a win, I mean, this is huge. He gets a win over D-Rod. He's got 3 wins in a row. And if he gets a finish, that's even more spectacular. And now we're having that conversation of, okay, what ranked opponent do we give him at 170? Who can we match him up against, in the rankings that people would love to watch him fight? Because there's plenty of guys, you've got this whole rankings. You got Bilal, Sean Brady, Shavkat, Leon, Kamaru, you got Ian Gary, Morales. I mean, those you can see. I could see him fight someone like a Morales. Tall, long, lanky Kevin Holland fights a younger kid coming up. I know that Kevin said he didn't want to fight the young bucks because but you've got Colby Covington. I'm sure he'd love to have that fight. He'd love to have that fight.
Yeah.
So, there's fights to be had there. There's already fights. There's fights to be had there for him to get up into those top rankings and this and that. But I think he's number 14 right now. Do you mix him in there with the Jeff Neal? Do you mix him in there with the Colby Covington? You got Joaquin Buckley coming off the loss, who's at number 7. There's fights in there, the two of them, the mouthpieces, everything like that. There's fights to be made there.
He should stay the hell away from Shavkat, though. I'm just throwing that one out there.
That's
not for him. Come on.
He's got some space to go. He's got time to go. So Shavkat, though, with him he's inactive.
That is true. Yeah. The reason I even thought of him is you're mentioning guys who all of a sudden drop off and nobody's talking about him. I mean, that's one of the main guys. 2024, everybody's talking about that guy inevitably as a champion. And through the first half here of 2025, you barely hear his name.
Crickets.
Yep.
You know what's interesting about that? I spoke to his manager a few times, and this guy refuses to be brought up in the headlines until he's healthy now. Isn't that cool? Like, he's one of these guys in this culture where he's like, I don't want to just talk shit just to talk shit. His injury must be so bad, right, fellas? He's still trying to get back on track with it, and he refuses. He's like, when his manager's like, when we have news about it, we're going to start posting. But they're not even doing tweets for him, nothing. He's just gone cold. And by the way, another fight for Kevin Holland, I reckon, is a sneaky good one is that Leon Edwards fight. If he can kind of sneak in there, because I think that's a fight that Kevin Holland can capitalize on, that can kind of skyrocket him. But no more of this going up to middleweight bullshit.
No,
like, let's stay in our division. The UFC don't let anybody do this, by the way. Like, we've seen some of the biggest names in the past wanting to go up to a different weight class. Like, no. But like Kevin Holland, it's
he's like a
man,
utility knife,
week.
you know?
Yeah,
he's like a utility knife for him. They were just like, whenever they needed it, he was, willing. And I think that, to Josh's point, if you're going to be serious, I mean, that would be the first sign, right? That you're saying, this is what I'm doing. I'm zeroed in on this weight class. I'm living that lifestyle to make that weight, and that's where I'm going to show.
Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely. I think they're holding this foot to the fire, going, hey, we've paid you a lot of money. We want you to stick around. We love your energy. We love everything about you. You're an active fighter. You're doing us a solid. If we could get you just to keep winning fights, can you do that for us? And do it for yourself too, please. Like, that's really what they're doing. They're holding this foot to the fire, I think, right now.
And by the way, speaking of holding feet to the fire, what about that podcast he did with Rampage Jackson, where he basically threatened to shoot him on the Jackson show? And I was like, what are you talking about, bro? You have a fight to focus on. But by the way, just quickly, before we speak about Paulo Costa, because I have some thoughts on him as well, we've got someone calling out, Kevin Holland can stay fresh with Manscaped. And the code word submission when you check out for 15% off. And of course, you get free shipping. That is, of course, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, fellas. They, of course, sponsor this show. That is the White Hot Edition. Manscaped has been with Submission Radio now for a while. It is skin safe. You can use it in the shower, on the go. And that is the white and gold design. Actually looks so good. You won't be hiding it in the bottom drawer anymore. White Hot looks, smooth results. White Hot 5.0 Ultra brings the heat. Forget about the White House whites. What about the White House Hot 0.5 Ultra fights? That's 15% off with the code word submission at manscaped.com and free shipping. Support the boys because they support us. But boys, let's quickly talk about.
I gotta get me a white one, man. I got a black one, and it just kind of lingers around my drawer. I need to get me a white one so it's easier for me to find. And yeah, I gotta get me a white one, man. You're gonna have to hit me up with the link and code and stuff so I can get that white one.
That's it, man. That's it. I'll tell you what, though. Just going back to Paulo Costa, interesting week for me, right? I've tried to speak to Paulo Costa a number of times. He's kind of gone MIA, hasn't really wanted to do interviews. We thought he was going to fight on a different card. Didn't really pan out. This happened in the past. He was supposed to fight Robert Whittaker here in Australia. Fight got confirmed. Full on leading into it, I was telling Robert Whittaker, hey, man, I don't think this fight is going to happen. And he was like, no, it's happening. It's happening. Then it got canceled last second. Then this week, UFC sets up interviews with Paulo Costa. Of course, Paulo Costa cancels all of his interviews that day. So this guy is just being Paulo Costa to the max. He wants to bring back the Paulo Costa from the Yoel Romero days. I mean, I was there live for that one, cage side. It was an incredible performance. It was a long time ago, though, right, fellas? He's been in this weird spiral with the secret juice, getting the Izzy fight early, drinking wine, not looking great, and then never really finding himself missing weight. Like, Josh, how would you describe this Paulo Costa journey? It kind of feels like it's been pretty didn't really go the way that we thought after this Yoel Romero fight, right? Like, after this Izzy fight, he kind of went into a tailspin and didn't really find himself come out of it yet.
I think what you find with some fighters, that when I was younger and I was coming up, I was supposed to be fighting Yves Edwards for the UFC title. That should have been for the title. I was number 1 in the world. He was number 2 in the world in the lightweight division. That should have been for the UFC title. We all know the story. UFC couldn't hemorrhage. It was hemorrhaging the money. They had to get rid of the weight class. I wasn't ready to be champion at the time. In that fight with Yves, I'm laughing, joking. I was fighting like Kevin Holland in that fight, talking to people in the crowd. Jens Pulver was on our show telling like, man, I remember you talking to me in the front row, Matt Hughes and I. And like, you're talking to us as you're scooping Yves up on your shoulder and slamming him down, talking to us. In this situation with Yoel Romero, or not Yoel Romero, but Paulo Costa.
Very similar, by the way. Now that you bring it up.
But he is in this situation. He is somebody who was not ready for a title shot or a title run. And I think he thought too, like, oh, I've gotten here. I'm having success. I'm one of the most marketable guys. And he knew that. And he let that, I think, go to his head. I go back to, like, it really comes down to when fighters start reading their own paper clippings is when you end up with a problem. And that's kind of, I think, where he was at, drinking a bottle of wine or 2 bottles of wine the night before his fight, all of those things. And then just the ups and downs of the fight game right now. You've got to consistently stay training if you want to be considered one of the best. And he's had a spiral and then he's won. And he's had a spiral and then he's won. In this situation, If he wants to make a run, which I believe Kopylov is not an easy fight for him, but it's a fight that's very winnable for him. The pressure, his strength, his explosiveness, his power, all of those things. If he brings the action and he comes in shape and we see glimpses of the Yoel Romero fight, I think he beats Kopylov handily. I think he beats him handily, and I think you end up seeing him make another run. But can he reel it all in? If you follow him on X, bro, he's like off the rocker sometimes. It comes out of his.
I know.
I'm like, okay, is this you? Is this you being marketable? What are you? I think that he's got all the tools, all the weapons to really, especially in this weight class. It has never been a strong weight class. The strongest it was is when he made it to the top. You had Izzy, Yoel Romero, him, Rockhold. Like, you had guys that were really good that he made it through and got to the top. This right now is not that same weight class. He should be able to dominate this weight class if he focuses again and makes that run. He should be able to do it.
That sounds like where the sharp money should go, because I was just looking at that line. And he's like a 2-1 underdog, Costa, which is crazy. It's kind of crazy if you just think about that for a minute. But I think it's just what you mentioned, just kind of the inconsistency. And what is he? He's lost like four or five of his last fights. I know he had the Rockhold one, which was just such crazy theater. Just the way they like lost their gas tanks in the middle of that fight. But I keep thinking that we will see that version of him show up again, just because it just felt too abrupt. I don't know how to explain it. I don't feel like he's shot or washed or any of those things, man. It's just, I just feel like he just went off, he just went off a different direction. And if he's able to reel that back in and show up in that form, I agree with you, man. I think that this could be that moment where he kind of gets back into the picture, and he should carry a chip on his shoulder, honestly, man. When Kopylov is a 2-1 favorite, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, if I take a look right now at the rankings, right, and he's at number 13. You're telling me that he can't beat, like, his ability to avoid takedowns and all of these things, he can't knock out DeRitter? DeRitter's getting that big step up with Whitaker, right? You're telling me he can't beat Vettori? You're telling me he can't beat Anthony Hernandez? Like, these are guys that I feel like he should be able to beat. These are all guys. Jared Cannonier, he's a fantastic athlete. He's a great fighter. He's older, 41, I think now. His gas tank starts to slow down in rounds 2.5. But so does Costa. But I'm saying, like, the power, though, and the two of them exchanging, I would give it to Paulo Costa. With the power and the speed and the explosiveness, I would give it to him. I get nervous, I guess, with guys like Kai Bahalo. I haven't seen a big enough sample size on against top-level competition, but I think Kai would probably be able to ink it out or get it over him. But, I mean, there's guys, him and Whitaker again, or him and Izzy again. Like, let's see those fights again. There's room for him to make a real run if he focuses. We see glimpses of him in the Yoel Romero. God, this guy could be the limit for him.
Yeah,
I think that Izzy rematch is actually a good fight for him if he wins here, because Izzy needs a fight where he can get back into action. And I don't know if Sean Strickland is going to necessarily be like, it's not the easiest fight to come back against. I think I'd love to see Izzy just have a little bit of a warm-up just to see where he's at before he gets right in there with Strickland and potentially loses again, and then he's done for good. But anyway, we'll see what happens. And there's a lot of opportunity for Paulo Costa. Apparently, Hamzat Chimaev as well slid into his girlfriend's DMs. So we'll see what happens down the track with that as well. It's all happening in the MMA world. It's just a bunch of scumbags going for it in the DMs. Hey, let's just quickly talk about this as well. Before I talk about this fight between Max and Dustin and what this third fight is going to look like, what did you guys think of Max Holloway doing an interview with Shaq MMA recently? Kind of not giving Ilia Topuria the flowers that he deserves. Max Holloway not really buying the hype around Ilia Topuria's 3-fight win streak. A little excerpt from that one is people just look at the names. Volk was coming off what he did. Oliveira was on a 1-fight win streak. And then, of course, one of the 3-fight win streaks was Max Holloway himself. Like, Chuck, is it weird that he's kind of not giving Ilia Topuria credit, considering he was one of the guys that Ilia Topuria knocked out in that fashion on the streak? Like, is that a weird sort of take from Max Holloway right here?
I mean, maybe he's just got a little chip on his shoulder, because, I mean, honestly, this is a big homecoming for Dustin, right? This is a big court. Like, this is putting the bow on, like, a career. Both guys were, like, 22 or something like that, and 20 at the time they first met. Maybe there's just some added, something going on with Max, but that seems almost out of character a little bit with him. You know what I mean? Like, he's but I kind of dig it, man. I kind of dig it. They should have that in a third fight. The one thing with Max is, if he loses a fight and he gets a rematch with that fighter, he hasn't performed well. Like he's already lost, like the Dustin Poirier when he was in that fight. Now that fight was a very good fight, and we saw him have his moments. But obviously Poirier, when he landed his power, when he was able to kind of do that in the exchanges, that's where he made the big difference. Hurt him a couple of times. And the Volkanovski, when it was like it kind of went south, there was a trilogy where he lost all three of them. And there's something about that, because I think sometimes we look at a guy like Max and you're like, there might be guys who just have his number. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying he can't go in there and beat, like he can't go in there and win this fight, but there's something about it. Like if he's just not kind of establishing, I always think of that Calvin Kattar fight where he just got into almost like a systematic rhythm of it was just crazy. I've never seen a buzzsaw like that. Whatever amount of punches he landed, it seemed like he could do whatever he wanted in that fight. If you get that version of Max where he finds that rhythm and stuff, of course he can win the fight. But it's just a weird detail. I'm like, does Poirier just have his number? What do you think, Josh? I mean, you analyze this stuff a lot more than me.
I mean, are you talking about Poirier or are you talking about Dustin with Max? Because
Dustin, Dustin.
Okay, so Dustin over the Max situation, I wouldn't say he has his number. I just think the first fight was obviously his first fight in the UFC, big, and Dustin had already been in the UFC for a little bit, and that's a tough fight for anyone. And I'm just glad to see both of them make their run and their rises, because the two of them, when you compare their strength of schedule, they've got the two best probably in the whole sport. If you go through the guys that they have fought, see that graphic I think someone posted of Dustin's last 10 fights. It's insane. It's insane. I mean, you've got Khabib, you got Islam, you got Max, it's got Dustin, you got all these people, Justin, you got everybody on that list for Dustin Poirier. And the same thing goes for Max. All the guys that he's fought in his last 10 fights, they're all former champions, they're all former world champions, or champions current. So it's like, it's not as if not as if either one of these guys are fighting slouches. In terms of the second fight, when I looked at that fight, Max didn't put the weight on properly. Literally took it within like a 10-week period. That's not enough time. You need time. You need 3-4 months to put the weight on. And everyone's like, oh yeah, but he walks around with that. Any fighter will tell you, when I come into training camp, just because I walk around with that, that's not what I fight at. I would walk around 76, 77. Okay. As soon as I started camp, I would automatically, like in a 2-week period, drop down to 68 right away. I never walked around heavier than 72, like is in terms of like during camp. Never. So I never fought higher than 72. So those are the things that I think what people need to take away is just because the guy walks around at 180, 175, then fights at 45 doesn't mean that he's able just to go bounce back. Like, oh, I can fight at 55. No. I've got to put the muscle on properly. I've got to condition that muscle to carry the oxygen that I need to actually make sure that I'm productive during that fight. All of those things are very important. In terms of the Ilia Topuria comments with Max, look, I got to kind of, to me, that was me. I was saying those things. So when he said that, he was saying all the things that I had said, because I looked at it differently. I go, Ilia Topuria fought Volkanovski off of a head kick knockout. I didn't really count. I was like, I really didn't count that as a win. You beat a guy who was pretty much unstoppable, but coming off of a head kick knockout, who hadn't lost in however long. All that confidence that Volk had, building up to the Islam first fight and all those things, taking the fight on short notice to fight Islam the second time. That was me going, that knockout doesn't count. We all kind of expected it as a fighter. You got knocked out by Islam. 4 months later, you defend your title and you get knocked out again. Not surprised, and not to use Nate Diaz as not surprised, motherfuckers. Like that's really what it came down to. Then I was like, all right. And then the next fight was Max, and then I was thinking to myself, I had this argument with Big John. I go, he should not. In any way, he put the weight on properly, went up to 55. He knocked out the number one guy in highlight reel fashion. He should fight Islam for the title. He shouldn't even bother going to 45. Why go down there and fight at 45? Fight Islam for the title at 155. No, he'll just get wrestled. He'll get taken down. The Ilia fight is the stand-up fight. Bang, bang, Nope. And I really honestly believe that weight cut affected his chin. I really believe it, because if you take a look at guys like TJ Dillashaw when he tried to make 25, other guys that have lost too much weight, Marlon Moraes, he was known for being a shorter guy, but a thicker guy, bigger legs, cut a lot of weight to make 35. I think it affected his chin. Over all that time span of him cutting the weight and losing the weight to get down to 35, I think it affected his chin. And I think in this situation, it affected Max's. I think Max at 55, and then you look at the Charles fight coming off the one loss. and he fights Ilia Topuria. I'm not going to take anything away from him in that fight. Charles has been through the ringer before. Charles is coming off. It doesn't matter if it's 0 losses or 15 losses. That dude's tough. He is getting a little bit older. That's the only knock you could really say. And he's fought a lot of guys. He gets a little chinny. He reminds me a little bit of an Eddie Alvarez who gets dropped and comes back and wins fights. That's what Charles reminds me of, but you can never count him out. So I gave him all of his flowers. I gave Ilia his flowers when he beat Charles. But I understand where Max is going, though, with the first 2 fights, because the Volk coming off the head kick knockout, and then Max, having to cut weight back down to 45. And after putting the weight on, that's not easy. That does have an effect on your chin, has an effect on your cardio, has an effect on your body. And those are things that we saw. Have we seen Max get slowed down that much or that tired? Not tired, but he wasn't as active. His movement wasn't as much. He took cleaner shots, in a 3-round, or what was it, the 3rd round or 4th round, he got finished in that fight that we had never seen Max do. We go back to the Calvin Kattar. You brought that up. That guy looked like he was on a bike out there, just moving around fluidly, just smooth, just like on ice skates, just pop, 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 touch, 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 pop, pop, pop. Everyone thought he was going to do that again. The weight cut had an effect. I truly believe it had a huge effect on him in that fight. But I give Ilia Topuria his flowers, though, on the Charles fight. Charles can never be counted out. Charles can grapple. He can wrestle. He's a big body frame for 155, not just 45, but 55. He can, and a lot of guys have fought Charles and said he's the hardest hitter I've ever been hit with. His grappling obviously is some of the best in the game because he's got the most submissions in the game. You can't take anything away from his win over Charles Oliveira. So that's where I'm at right now on the Ilia Topuria situation. I think Max, though, let me ask you guys this, because I posed this question to John. Mm-hmm. You have Dustin on his farewell fight, and we all want to see Dustin win. I don't know if you guys do. I do. Okay. We all
you'd like to see that, right? Like the setup for him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I can't find a better person in life. I mean, there's only a handful of guys that I could say are just better people.
You also want to make sure the fight is decent, because if it's like a cut over an eye and the whole thing is based around this one fight, that would be like, you know what I mean? That's what happened at that BMF fight when we were there live for the Nate Diaz.
Oh, man.
Were you there for that one, Chuck? We were all like, what the hell is that? Like Krusty the Clown in The Simpsons. Like, what the hell? Anyway,
but here's the thing. If most of us want to see, for selfish reasons, we want to see Max fight Ilia, right? At 155. Do you know or do you not? Like, I do. I'd like to see that. I want to see that fight at 155. I want to see Max put the weight on properly, have a great performance at 55, and then go ahead and fight Ilia for the title at 155 and see what the difference is because of what we saw against Justin Gaethje. My thing is, though, is that Max is going to have to take an L right now, because I want Dustin to get the win on his farewell fight. So I'm torn. Which one, as a selfish person, right? Which one do you guys want to see? You want to see Dustin win his farewell, or do you want to see Max get to the title?
Oh, man.
Oh, see? That's
so tough. It is tough, man, because, everybody keeps saying this. It's almost a cliche going into this fight week. Like, oh, it's one of those matchups you don't want to see either guy lose. And I think it's because of those circumstances, right? Max is going on. I don't want to see him kind of derailed from what you're talking about. Like, you almost want to see what he can do without having to go through 2 or 3 guys or whatever it's going to be. Mm-hmm. But man, it's tough because when Dustin upset Saint Denis, and it was like one of those crazy gutty performances where you're like, man, how do you not love this dude? They're trying to send him off on the ice flow against this young dude coming up who's supposed to be taking his spot, and he just bites down on the mouthpiece and puts him away. I mean, that was one of the great fights of his career, I thought, like just coming back. And then he gets that title fight, and there was this romance to it. Like, man, can you imagine if he goes in there and wins this title at this point in his career? This would be nuts. He didn't get it, and you see him kind of go through the emotional, pull of all of that, the realization he's not going to get back there, even talking about it. But like, I don't want to go 2 or 3 more fights to try to get back to that spot. So you put him in this position, and man, that would be heartbreaking to watch him lose that one too, Yeah. I just feel like for the guy's career, what he's put into the sport, like you mentioned, Josh, him being just who he is, the kind of father, his philanthropic stuff that he does all outside.
I have no idea what that word means.
But charity stuff, like his charities and stuff. I mean, you tax just don't want, his tax write-offs. Like you just don't want to see it have to end in his hometown with an L. So I guess the lesser of the evils would be that I'd rather see Poirier win this fight and get that moment for him.
It would be cool to see the moment. And just quickly, Josh, as well, it's interesting with his BMF belt, though, right, fellas? Because if Max wins it, he's got his BMF belt. You know, you got your Charles Oliveira's, your Dan Hookers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's almost like a side path for some of the aging guys in the division. Because, like, let's be honest, like, to Poirier, we're probably going to get, like, Pimblet, maybe Arman. Then he'll probably move up, do, like, Islam, or they'll do Islam straight away. Like, those guys have their own thing going off on the side. It's kind of cool to have a little belt there for Max to defend. If Josh, if Dustin wins this belt, right? Is this it for the BMF belt? Like, I've spoken to a few people about this. Or does this thing just magically pop up in another division? Like, yeah, Dustin just won and retired the BMF belt, but now we're all fighting for a BMF belt with another kind of little thing on the, you know what I mean? Like, it's getting silly now with this BMF
No, it's
belt.
not. It's not getting silly. You want to know why? Because you brought up the Saint Denis and Dustin fight. For me, I look at the Dan Hooker and Dustin fight as being one of his biggest fights of his career. That was the most insane fight. He was down 2 rounds going into round 3. He needed to win all 3 rounds to win the fight, and he did. That lets you know how much of a dog he is and how deep he can dig. In terms of the BMF belt, I absolutely believe that even if it does run off into the sunset with him, good for him. I want him to have that moment. I want him to have every moment he can possibly get this last time around. That being said, you have to bring it back. You have to bring it back for guys like a Dan Hooker. You have to bring it back for these other talented guys that come up. I never want to see this BMF belt put up on the line with a champion, because then it stays with the champion. That's why you should never have it with the champion. It should always be to the guys that are not champions. And it should never be put on the line when when you're fighting the champion, because if it is, then it's gone. Then only champions have it from then on. So that's why I think what you do is you continue to have it like this way. Not to mention, let's talk about the contractual stuff they have with their TV network. You know, with the ESPN, you have to have a certain amount of title fights every year, and then certain pay-per-views need to be headlined with title fights. Whatever it is, that deal needs to be done. So you need to make sure you have enough titles. You need to make sure you have enough people that will defend those titles. And that's a very difficult situation for the promotion. I've had plenty of conversations with guys like Joe Silva when he was the matchmaker. Josh, I said, I want to fight a top 10 guy. He's like, Josh, here's the top 20 guys. He's like, see all the red? Those are the ones that can't fight. He's like, they're wedding, they're getting injured. There was only 3 guys in the top 20 that were free to fight. Benson Henderson being one of them, who just so happened to be getting married. He was able to put his marriage on hold until we fought. And so he's the only one that actually stepped up and took the fight. Otherwise, I would have had to wait like 6 months for another fighter. So
wow,
all that stuff.
That's some insight into and how it works. That's great.
Yeah, apparently he was pretty full on, I hear, Josh, right? Like Joe Silva.
Oh, was he out? Was he out there?
Well, I heard like people say like sometimes he would be pretty full on to deal with as a matchmaker and stuff compared to like.
What's full on mean? Talk to me in Australian. What is that?
Well, you know, like he could be like a little bit rude and a little bit brash and a little bit like trying to get you to take fights that you don't really want to take. But I mean, it is professional.
That's how that conversation came up. Let me tell you, like, so I was offered the Anthony Pettis fight for the UFC title after the Nate fight. Okay. There was a Gray, not Gray Maynard, somebody else. TJ something was
Grant. TJ Grant.
TJ Grant was supposed to fight for the title. He ended up getting a concussion in training and basically never fought again.
That crazy?
Right there, yeah. And so that whole thing fell apart, and then I was offered the title shot, and then so on. Pettis pulled out because he was hurt, and then so on. But he was also on the Wheaties box and all this other stuff. So I knew what they were doing. He's 26 years old, great story because of the dad situation, and winning the title, doing a great job, fantastic kid. I understood what they were doing. So they basically called me. Joe calls and goes, "Hey, I want you to fight not Kopylov, Rustam. God, what was Rustam's name?
Jesus.
Rustam, not Kopylov. God, it was Rustam. So anyways, 5-time Sambo champion, trained with Islam and Habib. They knew each other. They'd compete against each other much times. They're like, yeah, he's a really tough guy. Like he's good on the
Kopylov, main card. Luke from the main card. Yeah,
Kopylov.
Oh, right.
Kopylov.
Thanks, Luke.
They wanted me to fight him. And I was like, dude, I'm supposed to fight for the title. This guy's not even ranked yet. I'm like, you would, and they're like, yeah, you. And then they were gonna have me be the opening fight on the main card and not the main event and those other stuff. It's gonna be in Sacramento. I was like, nah, I'm good. Joe Silva literally tells my manager, and I hear him on speakerphone. He's like, hey, He's like, will you tell Josh he can enjoy sitting on the sideline for the next 6 to 8 months? I'll fucking fight him when I'm ready. And then my manager goes, okay, I'll tell him that. And then he turns to me and tells me that. And I'm like, I heard him. And then we go back. I said, well, tell him that I'm financially okay, because I was getting paid a lot of money in Strikeforce at the time. I said, I'm financially okay and I can wait that time. And I called him back and he goes, and Josh is only asking for give him a top 10 guy. That's it. I go, and I said, I'll take RDA. I'll take Cowboy Cerrone. I'll take any of those guys. I'll take them. And they were never offered to me. I was actually supposed to fight RDA instead of Pettis before. And they took me off the RDA fight to fight Pettis. And then Pettis got hurt and then RDA was already booked. Crazy. So 2 of those guys were gone. And so then when he said, hey, you either fight, Kabalov or you don't fight. And I was like, all right, I just don't fight. And he chewed into him. And my manager goes, look, Josh says that he's financially okay. So if you give him a top 10 guy, he'll take it tomorrow. He'll take it. He's ready to go. So 3 days goes by. 2 days actually went by and they sent me a contract on day 3. He's like, here, Benson Henderson said he'll fight. I said, sign, done deal. Damn. I'm good, ready to go. So yeah, there's been a lot. Like I used to I'm the guy that kind of found Anthony Rumble Johnson hitting mitts in some back alley, shoot box gym.
Wow.
Really?
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know the story on that.
Do you know this story, Chuck?
No, I don't know the story.
Okay, let me give you a little insight.
Sorry, you got all the stories, Josh. Sorry.
I'm a little long-winded. So I was down in LA promoting a nightclub, and I needed a place to train because I had a fight coming up in Strikeforce. And AJ was hitting mitts, in this gym at Shoot Box, and the guys that sponsored me, Knox Gear, martial arts and fitness were sponsoring me. So I went in, they said, hey, we know these guys that don't shoot box. Like, hey, you want to go over there and roll a little bit? They got some members there. So I go there and AJ is probably about 185, at the time. And I see him hitting mitts and I walk in and I don't see him yet. All I hear is wah, 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 wah. And just loud, just wah, wah, wah. I'm like, oh, it's echoing through this little gym. And I turn around the corner from where the way we walked in the door and AJ's just cracking pads. And I was like, oh, shit. All right. And I'm like, damn, this gets good. Right? He looks so smooth. He's got power and everything like that. And then I get my stuff on. I started on my hey. And then he's like, hey, I'm here. Like, if you want to grapple. And I'm like, hey, just be careful. I'm not trying to get, I saw you hitting pads. You're a little bit bigger than me. I go, but let's go ahead and grapple. Let's train it as long as you're not spastic. And we had a great rolling session. He rolled me for a good 45 minutes, man. Great kid. This is what sold me on him, man. I was doing the promotion that night at the nightclub. He was a great kid, super nice, didn't ask for anything, just like, hey, I'm here to train with you. And I invited him to come to the club that night. He came and he was wearing, you remember those M&M NASCAR jackets, like leather jackets? He had one of those on and he had Air Force Ones on. And he came up to the club and we all walked in. I came out to get him and they said, hey, no, he can't get in. He's got Air Force Ones on. He's got an M&M jacket on. I was like, what are you talking about? There's like people in there with fucking saggy jeans, hats on backwards. AJ turned to me and goes, I'm cool, man. Like, don't worry about it. I appreciate you trying to get me in. Like, he was so nice, so respectful to the bouncers, soft spoken, told the bouncers, hey guys, I know you guys are doing your job. Don't worry about it. I just thought maybe there was something we could do. He was so nice. And I said, dude, I like this kid. So I literally called up Joe Silva. And I said, hey, I got this kid. He's really good. I know you guys are doing the Ultimate Fighter. And he goes, we're doing the Ultimate Fighter at 170 pounds. And AJ fought at 170. He's like, I can make the weight.
So that's how it started?
That's how it started. And then the reason why they didn't take him on the Ultimate Fighter is because he was coming down from 190 something. And that was after the Gabe Rudiker situation. Remember when he had got the chronic and all that? They said, we're not going through that again. Guys that are too heavy are not going to be on the show. You have to be able to make weight on a weekly basis or whenever you're called upon. So we're not going through that. So after they turned him down and they told him that, a month later, they called him to fight Rich Clemente. And he fought Rich Clemente on short notice and like a 10-day notice fight. Yeah. Knocks Rich Clemente down in the first 30 seconds, gasses out in the second, and then I think eventually gets Kimura in the third. Yeah. They call him back again, and he fights Tommy Spears. Knocks him out, slumps him in the corner, who Tommy was one of the top guys from the Ultimate Fighter. He was supposed to be on, and he slumps him in the corner, and then the rest is history. Wow, his next 5 fights all were under a minute 10. All of them under a minute 10, all knockouts, all highlight reel knockouts.
That's unreal, man. And rest in peace to him. What an absolute legend. Thanks for sharing that story with us, Josh. That's really, really cool. And Old Man Dave, those jackets were the coolest. I feel like they're making a comeback. Just quickly, as we wrap up, fellas, because I know I've taken up too much of your time. Chuck, I want to go to you first and then to you, Josh. How do you guys feel this third fight between Max and Dustin's going to go? You hit the nail on the head, Josh. In the second fight, Max looked like a 145er fighting at 155. Every shot that Dustin would hit him would stumble him. There was a real difference in power, but Max was able to get to him, right? Chuck, he was still able to throw those combinations, just didn't do much because he wasn't a true 155er. Now he's coming off that win over Justin Gaethje, where he was able to take him out. He's a true 155er. If you had to pick it right now, Chuck, how do you think that this third fight goes? By the way, these guys almost fight each other every 6 years as well.
I was going to say funny. It is 6 years or something like that. So look for them in 2031, right? They'll be doing it. But no, they, I think that I still lean Dustin in the fight. And I think primarily because it's his last fight. If he's going to, I feel like he's that focused, but you wonder is there going to be an emotional dump? Because almost like when you go into this type of situation, kind of knowing this is it, you're in front of we'll see as he walks out kind of what that scene looks like. Can he keep all that in check? I just think that his power still will translate more than Max's. I do agree this was a different Max. We'll see kind of how that looks come fight night. But I guess when I really think about it, and if you watch those first fights, even though I don't know how much can you get from the 2012 one? Like I feel like they've evolved so much. So it's like really just looking at the way they're fighting recently, I still just like his power, man. And I think it translates in a fight like this ultimately. So I just you get this, I could see Dustin kind of hurting him at some point in the fight, and then it's just kind of an uphill thing where Max is trying to, come back from that situation. And if in a 5-round fight, if Dustin is still there, like at the end, I think that he gets it done.
Yeah.
Do we see a Gilly? Do we finally see a Gilly to see out his career?
I got to be honest, man. If you pick the Gilly, I think it's like a plus 1,400.
Oh my God!
For him to win by the Gilly.
Tempting.
Yeah. And look, if you're going to get him with something, I could see it being that, because putting Max away is going to be very difficult, even though he is coming off the knockout. I think his chin, like I said, because of the weight cut, I think in the 145, I think his chin will be fine at 155. And where's his mental at though? Losing that opportunity against Ilya, knowing that he had such a great performance at 55. Is he feeling like this is home now, which is what he said? I'm not going to 45. That ship has sailed. I'm done with that. This is his home. He understands what's at stake. He needs to get it done. He needs to have a good camp. Everything seems like it worked perfectly for him. So we're going to see how it all pans out inside the cage. If I'm going, to be honest though, I'm going to go with Dustin. And the reason why I'm going to go with Dustin is that outside of him fighting careless, like just standing in the center of the cage and just letting the emotions and the energy and the crowd and all that stuff get to him, which I don't think it will, because he's too much of a seasoned veteran and he really wants to get a win at home as his farewell fight. If he was to fight dumb, that's how he loses. But outside of that, I think Dustin gets it done. I think he slowly walks after him. I think he slowly touches him up. And I think if you take a look at the way that Dustin fights and you compare it to almost like a Nick and Nate Diaz, he touches and touches. And I had this conversation with Big John last night, is that he's been in the cage with Dustin. He touches you and touches you and touches you. And then as soon as he feels like something hits you good enough, he hits you two, three times hard. It's that hard combination. And then he dials it back. And you saw it in the Saint Denis fight. And you saw it in the Dan Hooker fight, is that he gets touched. Yeah. But he also touches you. And when he finally lands something clean is when he puts that pressure. So Max is going to have to be very careful. And if you're going to go by power, strictly like you were saying, is that the power is simple. It goes to Dustin. The power goes to Dustin. I think the chin goes to Dustin. I mean, especially after not coming off of a knockout like him. Different styles of knockouts too. He took 2 big shots, and then he got knocked out. So there's a difference there. There's a big difference there. So I'm going to lean with Dustin. I think Dustin's going to fight smart. I think he's going to get it done. I like Max. I want Max. I would like to see Max get a win too. Just sadly, I want to see my boy Dustin go out on top and just right off into the sunset. It's because as a fighter, it never happens. I know. It never happens. We never go out on top. We never go out on top. We want to always talk about it, but then we eventually say like, "Oh, I can do it one more time," because we're dumb, right? But then, the honest to God truth is that his guy has already set the stage. He's done. This is it. It's over for him, and I want to see him right off.
I want to say you stay retired. It's like in a couple of months. Dustin's back to fight Ilya Poirier because someone pulled out.
On the White
offered him
House.
about $100 million.
At the White House.
It'll be
At the White House.
Yeah,
The White House.
He's bringing his BMF title with him.
Yeah.
He's bringing the BMF title. That we're bringing it back.
Yeah.
And by the way, Max versus Conor BMF title at the White House. If he wins, I could see them going. That is a rematch. You never know. And also, Max being American as well makes a lot of sense.
But see, I don't look at guys like Conor as being BMF worthy.
Not BMF material.
No, like you look at guys like Max.
Maybe 3s and 4s, you know.
Yeah, you look at guys like Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker to me, he's the 3s and 4s. Dan Hooker to me is a BMF title kind of guy. You know, you bring somebody like a Dan Hooker, you know, I mean, I don't know. There's, you have Dan Hooker maybe in Saint Denis. Both those guys. Yeah. We'll see what happens in a year from now. We could be talking about totally different guys too, but those are guys that I could see. And we've only seen BMF at the lighter weights. Are we going to see a BMF in the heavier weights? Are we going to see anything like that at the 85 or the, you know,
it's not going to be at light. Let me tell you right now, it's not going to be at light heavyweight and heavyweight because that's they barely have enough people there to fight for the title. But anyway, I guess we'll see. Guys, that is it for the program. I want to just make sure that you guys jump on and check out the Weighing In podcast with, of course, Josh and Big John McCarthy. I'm going to chuck in the link in the description below. Make sure to follow the boys. They're doing such a great job. You guys are absolutely killing it. Congratulations, Josh. And I want to see this Nate Diaz boxing match as well.
They spent 15 minutes talking about the Conor photo at the beginning. I watched a little bit of the last one.
Beautiful.
It was funny.
Who doesn't need a reason to check that out? That's going to be amazing. Check that out. And Chuck, as we wrap up, what is coming out on your end? Some articles. I know you'll be doing stuff around the fight.
Oh, I'll just I'll just doing the column work. I'll be doing I'll have a pre-fight column and a post-fight column for UFC 318. It's also a big weekend, so I got like a big, there's all kinds of boxing matches going on. So I've got like a big
Dubois, right? Dubois.
Yeah, Dubois.
Yep. Yeah, and there's
another. You got Pacquiao. Bam Rodriguez is fighting. There's a bunch,
man.
And
Sue from Australia's over there as well doing the big rematch too. No Limit Boxing. Josh, anything that I missed out that people need to check out?
I'm gonna have to figure out how to stream all this stuff.
I know it's gonna be a lot, man.
I can't afford to buy all these pay-per-views. I do another podcast called Bad Takes where we just kind of give our bad takes on some of the events and fights
right up my alley.
Came up. So it's available on YouTube as well. It's called Bad Takes. You guys can search us and subscribe to us over there. We just started it about 3 weeks ago with my buddy Angelo, who does a separate YouTube channel as well for just all gambling stuff. But the two of us joined together recently, and it's a great little show that we put together. Just short sound bites, basically like anywhere from 7 minutes up to 30 minutes long. And that we do that. So check that out over there if you guys can. It's called Bad Takes.
Perfect, dude. I love that. I love that. That's a great idea for a show. And over here, live watch along with Beneil Dariush coming off a win. We'll be doing the live watching, the post-fight show, some other special guests. Guys, I appreciate you so much for joining us. Submission Radio Live, that is it for us today. Big thank you to Josh and Chuck for another epic program. UFC 318, Dustin Poirier goes out. It's going to be a great night of fights. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to you guys.